Okay, so everything we've talked about does apply to construction, but today we're going to talk about something a little bit more specific to you guys. So I'm actually going to hand out a packet for you here quick. Okay, so you've got the packet. There's also Unit 23 in your little book starting on page 110 that also deals with the framing square. There is an incredible amount of math that can be done with your framing square. Now, I usually have one in here, but I happened to take it home with me last spring because I bent my other one, and so I forgot to bring it back in with me. So I'm guessing the shop is locked anyway. So 110 in the little book. But anyway, there are pictures in here that show us the information that we really need. So we're going to look at, first of all, we're going to look at the first line. If you ever looked at the framing square, of course, there are two main pieces to the thing. You've got the small piece, which is called the tongue, and the body, right? Okay. So on the body of the framing square, there are usually 6 lines. The first 4 are the ones that I find the most useful. The first one is, everybody know? Length of common. And that is length of common per foot of run. There's a diagram, page 112 in your little book, or in the packet on page 266, there's a diagram as well. So anyway, so length of common per foot of run. And what it is that, of course, that varies depending on the slope of the roof. Now, have you guys gone over the difference between slope and pitch yet?
Briefly.
Okay. What you're used to seeing, like 412, 612, 812, whatever, that is a slope. Okay, a slope means every 12 inches of run, there's that many inches of rise. So 412 would be 4 inches of rise for every 12 inches of run. That's how we're used to ordering trusses, a 412, 612, 812. A lot of times we use the word pitch, but it really is a slope. Pitch is something just a little bit different. A slope is rise over run. So it rises 4 inches for a run of 12 inches, is what that says. Pitch is rise or height over span. So if I have a roof that looks like this, those little arrows pointing up on the ends are just the common symbol for walls pushing up, supporting the ends of the truss. We're going to assume this is a common truss, which means that it's an isosceles triangle. It's symmetrical. Not right now. So a 24-foot span and a 6-foot rise. Run or slope is always given per foot of run, per 12 inches of run. Or you could give it as feet of rise per 12 feet of run. Either way. Either way, if we're looking at slope, we're only looking at half of the common truss. How many feet is this here? 12 feet. 6 feet of rise for 12 feet of run. The slope, 6 feet for 12 feet, or 6 inches for 12 inches, they work out the same. It is a 612 slope. The pitch, however, as we said, was rise over span. There's 6 feet of rise for 24 feet of span. That reduces to a 1/4 pitch. Does that make sense? So pretend this truss is symmetrical. Find both the slope and the pitch of that truss. Well, it's just reducing the 6/24. Yep. I'll double check it. Okay, so for the slope, we have this little triangle over here. What's this base part of the triangle going to be? 18 feet. The height, of course, is still the 12 feet. The problem is this one up here worked out really nice because that run ended up being 12 feet. We just put 6 over 12, and 6 feet over 12 feet will be 6 inches out of 12 inches. To make this work, however, we need to convert this 12 feet into inches. 12 feet is how many inches? 144. So then we're going to take the 144 inches divided by 18 feet, which will give us 8. So it's 8 inches of rise per 1 foot of run. So that makes that an 8/12 slope. So you take the height in inches for slope divided by the run in feet. That shouldn't be anything terribly new for you. So slope, height in inches divided by the run in feet. This pitch now, what's the pitch of this? 12 over 36. Height over span is the pitch. 12 over 36 reduces to 1/3. So that's a 1/3 pitch. So if we want to convert between pitch and slope, how would we do it? Well, pitch, of course, that's in feet per foot. So there's no units there. 1/3 is unitless. There's 1 foot of rise for every 1 foot of height for every 3 foot of span. Bless you. How the pitch is used, by the way, is just that. Pitch was used more for when we did common rafters with a ridge beam and actually 2x8 rafters. And what it was is you take your span. Let's say your span is 48 feet. If you have a 1/3 pitch, it's just 1/3 times 48 is 16 feet. So that tells us that if that's our wall height, we set the top of our ridge beam 16 feet above the top of the wall. That gives us that 1/3 pitch. Slope is generally more for the trusses. It tells you that the top chord of that truss, if it is a 8/12 slope like this is, it's telling you that for every 12 inches we go over, it rises up 8 inches. And then we use that with our trig. We can use that for finding angle cuts and everything else in our truss. We could also use it for finding angle cuts on our rafters as well. So anyway, to convert between them, if I take 1/3 times 24, what do I get? 8. So that's an 8/12 slope. If I have a 1/4 pitch, if I multiply that by 24, what do I get? I don't know why I wrote 12, it should be 24. Times 24 is 6. That would be a 6/12 slope. A 2/3 pitch times 24 is 16. That's a 16/12 slope. So if I just take the pitch times 24, that gives me the top number for my slope. The bottom number, of course, the run is always 12. If I want to go the other direction, let's say I have a 4/12 slope and I want to convert it into a pitch, I take the 4 and I divide it by 24. 4 divided by 24 is just 4 over 24, which reduces to 1/6. So if I have a 6/12 slope, what's that going to become as a pitch? 6 divided by 24 is 6/24, or 1/4. Any questions? Start over?
Yeah.
Let's do some examples of let's take 10/12 slope. Let's do a 16/12 slope and a 12/12 slope. And we're going to convert each of them into a pitch. So I'm going to do the first one for you. To turn a slope into a pitch, I'm going to take the top number of the slope. I'm going to ignore the 12 and I'm just going to take the 10. It is 10 divided by 24. That'll reduce to 5/12. It's a 5/12 pitch. We're not. To turn it into a pitch. If there's, for every 12 units of run, there's going to be 24 units of span. Because your run is half the span. So for the 16/12 slope, we're going to do 16 divided by 24. Both of those are reduced by 8 to give me a 2/3. So there's a 2/3 pitch. So do the 12/12 and the 18/12. What'd you come up with for the 12/12? That's 12/24, which reduces to a 1/2 pitch. 18/12, 18/24. Both of those divide by 6. You're correct. Give you a 3/4. So no. You're thinking slope. Pitch means that for every 4 foot of span, there's 3 foot of height. Slope, the 18/12 means that for every 12 inches of run, there's 18 inches of rise. That's slope. Pitch is the whole span.
Okay, that's where I'm at.
Okay. Seeing the difference between them?
Yep.
Yeah. See, 12/12 means that for every 12 inches of run, there's 12 inches of rise. Like that. But that means the span, there's still 12 inches of rise, but it would be 24 inches of span. There's 12 inches on each side of the rise. Here, let's look at a roof example here. So let's say we have a roof here that has a 30-foot span. Five-foot rise. To find the slope, we're only concerned with half the triangle here for slope. Because for slope, we want the rise, which is the 5 feet, but with the run, it's just this amount. That's half of the 30. It'll be 15 feet. And to find the slope, remember, we take the rise in inches divided by the run in feet. So the 15 feet we're going to leave, 5 is going to get changed into 5 feet is going to get changed into 60 inches. So it's 60 divided by 15, which is 4 inches per 1 foot. So that's 412 is the slope. 4 inches of rise for every 1 foot, or 12 inches of run. But that's why we divide by the run in feet, so that it's automatically 1 foot is 12 inches. So we divide by the run in feet so that we automatically end up with a denominator of 12. 1 foot is 12 inches. So this is a 412 slope. Do you see how the slope is calculated? So let's do another one of just slope here first before we move on.
Quick question.
Yeah?
So with that 412, how would you convert that to?
We'll get back to that.
Okay.
Do the pitch. So I'm going to leave a little blank spot here so I can come back and do the pitch for that one. So let's look at one that has a span of 28 feet and a height of 7 feet. So again, for slope, the triangle we're looking at is just half of the common rafter. This is 7 feet high. What's this down here? 14 feet. So to find our slope, we're going to change the 7 feet into inches. That's how many inches? 84 inches. So now then the slope will be 84 divided by 14, which is 6. So that means it is a 612. 14 is the feet. And the reason we divide by feet is we want it to be over 12 inches. So by leaving it in feet, we get 1 foot on the bottom, which is 12 inches. Yes, sir.
Why do we turn the height into inches?
Because we want it in inches. Slope is rise in inches for every foot of run.
But why?
Why? That's just what it's defined to be.
Okay.
So 612 means 6 inches of rise for every 1 foot of run. Then we just change the foot back into 12 inches to make it 612. But 612 really means 6 inches of rise for every 1 foot of run. So let's do this. Let's do 48 feet, a span, 20 feet of rise. So to find the slope, well, in your notes, find the slope quick. So what'd you get for the slope? Yes, you got 20 feet, which is 240 inches. So it'll be 240 inches over 24 feet, right? Half of the 48 is 24 feet. So that does, it ends up being 10, so that's a 10-12 slope. Does that make sense? Okay, now let's go back and do pitch. The pitch for this one. Pitch is always both in feet. Slope is inches over feet, inches per foot. Pitch is always in feet. It is rise in feet over span in feet. So it's 5 feet of rise over 30 feet of span. Both of those divided by 5 gives me a 1/6 pitch. So let's look at this one. The pitch. What's my rise? 7. What's my span? 28. That reduces to 1/4 pitch. Find the pitch on this one. You got 20 over 48, and you're right. Both of those will be divided by 5, or by 4, sorry. Give you a 5 over 12. This is where it can be confusing, because it's a 5/12 pitch. And it's really easy to want to say that's a 5 over 12 slope. It's not. It's a 10-12 slope. if I have the pitch and I want the slope. So I have the pitch and I want the slope. I'm going to take the pitch, in this case it's a 1/6 pitch. I'm going to multiply by 24. What is 1/6 times 24? It is 4. So that means this is a 4/12 slope. So this is a 1/4 pitch. What's 1/4 times 24? 6. So that means it is a 6/12 slope. This is a 5/12 pitch. 5/12 times 24 is 10. So that means it's a 10/12 slope. If we are going the other way, you look confused, Kyle. Okay. So on this, what is the pitch? It's 25 over 50, right? It's a 1/2 pitch. The slope, though, would be what? It's 25 high, right? The run would be 25 as well. So I'm going to turn 25 feet into inches, which is going to be 300 inches. So the slope is going to be 300 inches divided by 25, which is 12. So that means it's a 12/12 slope. Now, if I have the slope and I want to turn it into a pitch, so I have 12/12 slope, I take the top number only and I divide it by 24. 12 divided by 24 turns it to 1/2. So 1/2 pitch. So the pitch of this is going to be what? 15 over 60, right? Which is a 1/4. Slope, it's still 15 high. What's the run? 30, right? I turn 15 feet into inches. It's going to be 180 inches, right? So 180 divided by 30 feet is going to be 6 inches. That's 6 inches per foot. So that is a 6/12 slope. Now again, if I want to convert my slope into a pitch, I take the top number only, the 6. I divide it by 24. That is 1/4. Make sense? You look confused, Mike.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I'm not grabbing it.
The 24 is just a constant for converting between pitch and slope. If you're going from pitch to slope, okay? Let's say you have a 1/4 pitch. To convert, you take the 1/4 times 24, which gives you 6. So that means you have a 6/12 slope.
You're describing the same thing, the same roof,
Yes, the same roof.
just two different ways of describing.
Two different ways of describing it,
the
yes.
run of-
A 1/4 pitch and a 6/12 slope are the same roof. If I'm going from slope to pitch, let's say I've got a 412 slope. To get the pitch, I take the top number only, the 4, I put it over 24, and I reduce. Both of those can be reduced by 4 to give me a 1/6. So that means it is a 1/6 pitch. What do you think? No? Don't want to do it? I give.
No.
Okay, enough with that. We'll come back to that later if we need to. Let's get now to that top row on the framing square. That is the length of common length of the common rafter per foot of run. And it may be abbreviated differently from one framing square to another, but that is what it really is. It's all about. I might say just length of common per foot run, whatever. What it is telling us, for example, it is, of course, it is numbered from 24 down to 0. So 1, 2, 3 on that side of the square. That's just length of common rafter per foot of run. The number underneath the 6, for example, should be 1342. That space is left in there because that's replacing the decimal point. When you're machining these things, putting a decimal point in is really tough, so just leave a little space there. That means 13.42. So what that means is if we're designing a roof like this, that is 30 feet. Okay? First of all, the run of the common is not 30 feet. 30 feet is the span. The run is how much? 15. From the edge to the peak. It's always half the span. So if this is a 612 slope, there are 13.42 inches per foot of run. So it's going to be 13.42 times 15. Which tells us the common rafter is going to be 201.3 inches. Now, we don't want it left as 201.3 inches. We want it in feet, inches, and sixteenths or eighths. We're going to go, bless you, we're going to go to eighths. We're going to go feet, inches, and eighths. So for 201.3 inches, let's start by dividing by 12. What do you get? You get 16 point something, right? That tells us that we get 16 feet. Next, we're going to do 16 times 12, which is 192, correct? We're going to subtract 192, which means we have 9.3 inches left. You with me so far? That 9 inches is our inches. We've got to take that 0.3 and turn it into eighths. Remember how we do that? We put it over 1. Right now it's a denominator of 1. We want it to have a denominator of 8. So 0.3 times 8 is 2.4. 1 times 8 is 8. 2.4 over 8 is between 2 eighths and 3 eighths. Which one's it closer to? 2 eighths. So that would be 1/4. So that's 16 feet, 9 1/4 inches. That's the length of my common rafter. What do you think?
You lost me after the first one.
40-foot span. The symbol for slope, by the way, is usually like this. Let's say this is a 412 slope. Actually, let's do 512 slope. That one's easier. We're going to do a 5/12 slope. First of all, what is our run? (20 feet). From the square, if you look on the chart for the square under the 5, what's that top number? 13, right? A 5/12 slope, there's 13 inches of length of the common rafter for every foot. So we are going to take 13 times 20, which will give us 260 inches. Now there's no decimal there, which means it's going to come out to be an even number of inches, no eighths. If I take 260 divided by 12, I am going to get 21. What that means is there's 21 feet. Now, how many inches are left over? Well, I've got 21 times 12 is 252. So the 21 feet used up 252 inches. How many are left? 8. So it's 21 feet, 8 inches. What do you think? Confusing? Okay, so in your little book, if you're looking on page 112, at the bottom of the page, you've got the picture of your square. Let's say that I tell you that the run is 8 feet. The run of the common is 8 feet. The slope, well, let's just say there's a rise of 9 inches per foot. In other words, it's a 9/12 slope, is what that's saying. So on the square, what number are we going to look under? The 9. The rise, the slope is a 9/12. We look under the 9. What's the top number under the 9? 15 is what we find. So what are we going to do with that 15? We're going to multiply it by the run. 15 times 8 is 120. So that's telling us that that common rafter, if this is 8 feet of run, that it is 120 inches of common rafter. But we don't want it left as 120 inches. We want to turn it into feet, inches, and eighths. Yeah, 120 divided by 12 is exactly 10 feet. So let's look at one that has a span of 48 feet. And let's say it rises 5 inches per foot. No, let's not do that. Let's do it rises 7 inches per foot. So if I look on the thing, what number am I going to look under on the square? 7. And under the 7, that top number is 13.89. Did you find it? So what am I going to multiply that 13.89 by? Not 48. 48 is the span. I'm going to multiply by 24. Remember, the run is half the span. So that's a 48-foot span is a 24-foot run. So 13.89 times 24. 333.36. That is in inches. So now he's got to convert that into feet, inches, and eighths. So yes, you're right. We're going to divide by 12. We divide by 12 and we get 27.78. So that's 27 feet. So now we're going to take 27 times 12, which is going to be 324. That's the number of inches that 27 feet takes up. So what am I going to do with that 324? subtract it from 333, which is going to be 9.36 inches. So that's 9 inches. I'm going to take the 0.36 now, and I'm going to multiply, since I wanted 8, so I'm going to multiply by 8 over 8. 1 times 8 is 8. 0.36 times 8 is 2.88. It's between 2 and 3. It's closer to 3. So 27 feet 9 and 3/8 inches. What do you think? Not very fun?
We did the sheet inside of the vehicle roof once. You just gave us the measurements of the engine one though?
Yeah. We will have to go over this more on Monday. For now, in your little book, it's Unit 23, starting on page 112 there. You're looking at, it goes 1 through 8, it looks like. We haven't talked much about 8, but let's see. I said we'll come back and go over this more on Monday. We'll even do some out of the other packet that I handed out, so make sure you don't lose that packet. Page 112, sorry, in the little book. Page 112. We're going to do the whole packet, but we'll come back to the packet on Monday. So I'll give you the last few minutes here to get started on that, see what you can do while it's still fresh in your head.